In this video, we're going to talk about how to become a political campaign manager. It is fun. It is exciting. It pays well. There's a right way and a wrong way to pursue a job like that. I'm going to tell you how it's done and give you some points and tips that will help you on your way. Stay with me. We're going to first talk about the qualifications you need, and listen carefully because they may surprise you. How you become an expert at the profession, how you circulate in a community where you live or in a kind of arena where you really want to fish in a particular pond, how that is done, and some pointers and tips that I'm going to offer to you about the nature of the position, how you manage to keep going from one campaign to another, because this is a very short-term assignment. You always want to have another campaign to go to after the one that you're doing ends. So let's first talk about your qualifications. And I mention this because it may not be quite what you thought they were. Yes, you can try and become an expert at every single detail of how things are done in a political campaign. But if that's all you want to do, then you might as well be a resident expert. These are special skills that a campaign manager must have. They must be a good communicator. They must be able to delegate responsibility and keep tabs on the people they delegate to. They must be a good negotiator. They sometimes have to balance the competing demands from a demanding candidate and a staff that's overworked, and it's a delicate balance to keep. They have to be an extraordinary judge of character. Why these things? Because in most cases, a campaign manager's job is to make the trains run on time, and it is a people business. And you have to wring a lot of things out from people who are working under enormous pressure and very difficult deadlines in a chaotic environment. That's what a campaign is. And sometimes the greatest qualification I've seen from campaign manager is to be a voice of calm in a sea of chaos. Or alternatively, the cheerleader in a room when everybody is down after their candidate has had a bad day. Those are the most important qualifications that a campaign manager has. Now, let's talk about where you acquire the skills that you need to hold and keep a position as a campaign manager. I'm going to assume that this is a dream that you have, that it's something that you haven't done yet. The fact that you're listening to this video suggests to me that you're interested in becoming one. So if you have not already done it, your first step is to go volunteer for a political campaign so that you can see in a competitive election how things work, how the manager does his job, how the senior staff operates, and frankly, the bigger the campaign, the better it is to be a volunteer, even if you never get on the payroll, because you're observing and seeing how highly competitive campaigns work and how the staff interacts with the campaign manager. The second thing I would suggest here, if you've already volunteered and you've made a few friends, is get yourself a senior staff position. Because senior staff have a certain specialty, you're an advisor of some kind of the candidate, or you're the one who's the wordsmith that writes the speeches, or you're the one overseeing the social media outreach, or you're the one overseeing the fundraising. Get yourself a senior staff position so that you're sitting inside the meetings with the manager. Now, managers are not perfect people. They get frustrated. They can be very demanding. They too are operating under a lot of pressure because there's a lot at stake. But observe how you like the manager, what the manager's doing well, and what the weaknesses of that manager are. That someday, observing how it's done and how they do the job, will someday make you a better manager when you get the job. Now, ultimately, how do you become from senior staff to political campaign manager? Well, if you're in that network, you're aware that in a political campaign, they do come to an end. One of the ways to be aggressive about landing a job as a manager is you learn from your network what the next election cycle is going to be like. Who's up in the next election cycle, the next year or the next 2 years? Who may be running for Congress? Who may be running for the state legislature? Who may be running for the state senate? Who may be running for a mayor somewhere? And you take it upon yourself to use your connections and the friendships you've made to get an audience with that candidate that's going to be on the ballot, and you go talk to them about the possibility of you managing that campaign. That gets you a position early on. It is the best way I know to do it. But you have to pay attention to what's going on around you, and you have to know what these races are going to be a year out and 2 years out to be able to do that. Third thing I'm going to mention here, I really shouldn't need to mention it, but I'm going to because it's so important. As you go from volunteer to somebody who has a staff position in a political campaign, you're going to meet lots of people who operate under very difficult conditions. You're going to meet some people you may not like very well, because people in politics are often just a little bit weird, and they're not always likable people. Make friends. And make it your job to keep friends. Never say anything that might permanently damage an acquaintances or a friendship with somebody. And the people that you encounter as a volunteer, and the people you work with that are other volunteers, and as you get a job inside a campaign where you're actually part of a senior staff, never burn bridges. Make friends, and once you've made a friend, go out of your way to keep a friend, because I will tell you that the political business operates behind the scenes principally on friendships. It's not advertising that campaign managers do, it's the people who know them, that they're capable, that gets a campaign manager a job. It's their reputation. And a recommendation that you get to a candidate from somebody who's worked with you, who would describe you as calm, cool, collected, always on top of the game, always thinking a day out, a week out, a year out, when you're managing a campaign, is worth a lot more than somebody seeing an ad say, hey, hire me, I want to be your campaign manager. So there is an art to making friends and keeping friends. And I think the best advice I can give you, like I said, do not burn bridges unnecessarily, and make it a point that once you have established a friendship, to stay in touch with that friend. One time I ran into somebody, had a lot of friends, and I said, what was your secret? And he said, I'd never let more than 6 months go by without keeping in touch with the people who are on my best friends list. And I said, how many are on that list? And he said, 300. He says, every day I'm talking to one of those people because I never want those friendships to grow old. Fourth thing I'm going to mention, and I've seen certain people who are in the political business as professional managers, they've mastered the art of it. It's being a resource to a candidate. Now, suppose a bright candidate pops up and you hear that they may be interested in running for the state senate or running for Congress or running for state representative or something, and you have a chat with that candidate. You're impressed with their brilliance, their communication skills. You just look at them and say, boy, this person would make a great candidate. Well, you can enhance your value as a campaign manager by bringing to that candidate resources that that candidate needs. And what is that? That's your connection. The people you've met in politics, the people you've met in the political apparatus, the people who have money that you may have met in politics, that you can connect that candidate to. So I once knew a political consultant who worked in a certain region of the country. He wasn't nationally famous, but in this 4 or 5 county area, he worked for everybody. And the people he didn't work for generally lost. And I had a conversation with him. I said, what have you done? How does this work? And he says, in this particular area, there are 4 counties. Each has a county chair. Each town, and there are 26 of them, has a town committee. I am on first name basis with all of these people. I am on a first name basis with every elected official in this area. I have become known as a guy who connects a first-time candidate to anybody that I want to connect her to. And that makes me a valuable resource, particularly to a bright, well-funded first-time candidate. And I make it a point to be on speaking terms with this. And some of these people I don't even like, but they don't know I don't like them. That's my secret. I'm kind of the gatekeeper, and I'm one of those who can open doors for a first-time candidate in a way that nobody else can. That's why I get to fish in this pond, and I always get the big fish. The other thing I want to mention about the job, it's not like any other job you can get. It's short-term. You do your job. Your campaign either wins or loses, and you're on to the next campaign. So how do you keep your network alive and able to refer you to upcoming campaigns that you may not know about? Well, I already mentioned the importance of keeping friends and making friends, but there's also a network that you really need to pay attention to so that you can be among the first to know when candidates are thinking about it. Now, when a candidate starts to think about running for office, what do? They start calling their friends. They start calling people who may have money. They start calling other office holders in the community. So here's my point. If the area or the state or the jurisdiction where you have performed as a campaign manager, go out of your way to expand your network of people in that community, because you never know which one may be the first to learn that old Mabel Bell is going to run for this seat in Congress and she's going to make a great candidate and she's looking for something. They may be the first to know it, but you may be the first to know that the opportunity is about to come to work for Mabel Bell. It's the network that you really, really, really need to nurture and care for. And that's one of the reasons it's important that you keep your friendships alive. Okay, I got a free gift for you. If you've watched this video and to you becoming a political campaign manager is one of your dreams, I'm going to tell you where it starts. It starts by volunteering in a political campaign. I'm going to tell you, if you're smart and good at it and you apply yourself pretty quickly, you're going to be somebody's political campaign manager. So there is a free video here about what you get out of volunteering in a political campaign. And why should you watch it? Because we go into great detail about some things that I have learned watching this process over the many years I have been doing this, some of the tips that I can share with you that make you a volunteer or a valuable volunteer, and how you parlay that into a paid staff position, which is exactly what a political campaign manager is. Take the time to go learn some additional things about how you can become a political campaign manager.